see. Well, it is 6:31. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. How is everyone doing?
Good.
So today, let's see, we have a couple guests. But first we'll just do our quick business. I personally haven't been up to much specifically, but I did want to share some comments from one of my Facebook friends, which I think kind of helps put things in perspective. This is just from my friend Vic Gomez, um, who is, active in issues, but she had written, New Mexico is by far the most effective state. That didn't happen out of kindness of capitalist hearts. That came from diligent organizing. New Mexico was red for a very long time. I grew up with Republican Governor Susana Latahana stripping healthcare, education, and resources from us. Today, because of organizing, we have universal free childcare, statewide paid sick leave, removed anti-abortion laws, capped predatory lending at 36%. It was 170%. Flipped blue to the House, Senate, Governor, Congress seats, Voting Rights Act, free college, free buses in Albuquerque. That doesn't mean we don't have work to do. We need to cap rent, pass 12 weeks of paid family medical leave, return land back to reservations, end fracking, stop these fucking data centers from moving in, restore the bosque and other natural areas, stop giving big tax incentive to corporations, pass baby bonds, UBI for immigrants, healthcare for all, CBAs on all energy projects, pass wage and career ladder for early educators. What else am I missing? And it's a very good point. It's something I keep reiterating. We're so caught up in the federal stuff that we're missing just how well we're doing in New Mexico. And I haven't followed up on the special session and how that went, but yeah, a couple weeks ago, I was like, what are they going to do for the, shortfalls that the big ugly bill has done? Well, they're working on it, and they did a special session, and I still have to look into like exactly what it is, but it's like the federal government shut down, state government just had a special session, focus on state and local for now, and it may not, energize the passions, to as much as, rallying against, Mr. T. I don't like saying his name, but it's like you can call some of these state and local legislators and talk to them personally or run into them at the grocery store. It's like it's very accessible. And we've got the 30-day budgetary session coming up. Email them, tell them your thoughts, how your concerns, what do you want to see passed in the budget? If there's something that isn't budgetary, reach out to the governor's office, ask the governor to put non-budgetary things on her call list. This is much, much more effective than hoping the people in Washington come to their senses. um so with that, let's see, our guests Madam Vice Chair, do you have any business to report?
Well, I don't have anything to report, but I would like to have everybody kind of introduce themselves because we have some people that haven't been here a while and they might like to know who's here. So, according to my screen, I don't know what the order is on everybody else's screen, but I'm just going to go with Cricket first to introduce herself.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Cricket Courtney. I'm the chair for CD2 for Adelante, but I'm also vice chair for the Socorro County Democratic Party, as well as the vice chair for our local Democratic women. And I've been up to things like today I signed a letter about the flotilla that was going to Gaza. The Israelis stopped it. So I wrote on behalf of getting our US citizens released from custody. And since our last meeting, I've written out 50 postcards in support of Gabe and mailed them off. And I'm about to try to follow up for the no talk without action. I sent off 50 little notes to people, 25 in New Mexico and 25 in Pennsylvania. And I'm going to practice my speech for when I make my phone calls, get familiar with the script. So I've been doing busy things for the party, but not necessarily Adelante.
It all helps, my dear. I'm Scotty Romberg. I am vice chair, also of Adelante Caucus. I'm vice chair of Ward 27C and precinct chair. And I have been knocking on doors for my school board member and for one of the candidates for mayor, which I won't divulge right now because I don't want to get into that. And then I'm going to ask Colton. Okay, just introduce yourself.
I'm Colton Dean. I'm the chair of Adelante. I also am board chair for 19B in Albuquerque, Bernalillo County. I'm big nerd about state politics, and I just try to help people get in touch with their state and local resources.
Great. Dan?
All right, I'm Dan Fay. I'm treasurer of the Adelante Caucus. Mostly working on right now is trying to build up some of the communications on Adelante website. And that's the main Democratic stuff I've been doing right now.
Marty Jacobson.
Hello, everyone. I'm Marty Jacobson. I'm the chair of the LGBTQIA plus caucus. Excited to be here and hear from you all. A couple of things coming up for us, and anybody who's available, I'd like to invite you to come along. We're going to be in Las Cruces for the Pride Parade and their Pride Festival in the plaza there on Saturday. And then coming back to Albuquerque on Monday, we are going to have not exactly a forum, but an opportunity for candidates who have reached out to the caucus and asked for our support. And so we've got mayoral candidates, we've got city council candidates, we've got school board candidates who are going to come to the DPNM offices on Monday at 6 p.m. And talk a little bit to us.
Oh, cool. Great. Cynthia, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cynthia Arellano. I apologize if I sound stuffy and scruffy. It's because I am. The difference between Las Cruces and Albuquerque within 48 hours was just incredible. So Marty, prepare for that because you're going to go down to heat. I work with Senator Heinrich. I'm his political director. And previously I was with Congresswoman Ledger Fernandez.
Great. Carol.
I'm Carol Trujillo Fay. I am the CD1 representative for the Adelante Progressive Caucus. And currently what I'm working on right now is I'm working with a bunch of the other caucuses for a big fall festival that we're having in Santa Fe on October 25th. And I'm hoping that everybody can come and enjoy in the festivities that we're doing. At Adelante, we will have a booth there and we'll be hosting pumpkin painting and coloring. So hopefully everybody can come.
Great. Great. Mr. Gaume, please introduce yourself.
Please don't call me Mr. Gaume. I'm Norm. I'm a water nerd. I'm president of the New Mexico Water Advocates. I recently was an expert witness for New Energy Economy in the 11-day hearing before the New Mexico Water Quality Control Commission on produced water treatment and reuse. I'm a retired licensed water engineer, and now I'm an activist, and I have lots of things that that I would hope you could all help with regard to our water, which is being neglected to the max.
Thank you, Norm. Elaine,
Are you saying Aline?
Aline, yes.
Okay. In Albuquerque in the International District, just an interested citizen, and I'm not accomplishing a heck of a lot politically at this point, except to call the White House and yell at them. I will be helping a little bit to produce the voters guide with the League of Women Voters this weekend, and I'll be helping to distribute that. And in honor of Cricket and Dan, I'm coming to you from my office at Starfleet headquarters.
Great. Francis, please tell us about yourself.
Well, hello to everybody. Good evening. Francis Gonzalez. I'm a longtime member of Adelante Progressive Caucus. I at one time was your CD2 representative with the caucus for a while. Colton and I were together when he was an at-large member at that time. And so I've been involved with them. And then also when I was with Adelante, we were also really working close with the rural caucus with DPNM. Steffi Weisberg and I mostly worked on water. A lot of the same issues that were just spoken about a few minutes ago. So that's still one of my passions is the waters. Right now I'm just keeping up with the legislative session with what they're doing to combat a lot of stuff that we didn't get in that ugly bill. So right now the House and the Senate for New Mexico has passed us making up the Medicaid, SNAP, and some other issues that they're looking at that fit in the proclamation. If it didn't fit in the proclamation, it's something that can be brought up at the legislative session starting in January. So it looks like they're trying to keep it just to fit the actual needs that our folks, especially with the folks who were under the Obamacare, Health Act, to where our premiums were at a normal rate, not at the exceeded rate. They're going to be under this crazy bill. So they're working on that right now, and it looks like it's going to pass as well. So that way our people don't pay a lot of high premiums. And so right now they have spent $162 million to get it approved. So it seems like both sides are working together and trying to get this out. So they're trying not to fight, be ugly. They already have denounced all the ugly violence that happened before our session started. So it looks great. And I'm the vice chair now also of Fuerzas Unidas caucus. And so I'm working with that caucus as well. So look forward to hopefully attending some more meetings with you guys. I sure miss being with you guys.
Great. Thanks, Francis. Roberta. Where are you, dear?
Sorry, not very good at this. Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm Roberta Smith, and I'm the precinct chair for 499. And I forgot what I was going to say. I always see you guys' table, and I always wondered. I didn't realize you guys had a Zoom meeting, so I happened to get an email the other day to join it. So I thought I'd come on and see what it is you guys do and talk about.
Great. Thanks for joining us. Laura.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, you bet. Laura, please introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Laura Parra. I am CD2 chair for DPNM. I am also vice chair in Luna County. And I am also running for city council here in Deming, New Mexico. And I also, like Roberta, got an email and I was like, I am going to join them. So I'm happy to be here.
Oh, Laura's wonderful. Great. Okay, Mr. Chair, I guess I've done my thing. I turn to you.
Thank you. Mr. Treasurer, do you have any business?
No major updates, just in about a week and a half, I got the Secretary of State report to turn in. We have about $4,000 in our bank account, so that's doing fine. And just working on the website. We're gonna need to talk with Jay because I think Jay's shutting down his web hosting, so we got to move some stuff around. So I'll probably talk about that at an e-board meeting, next e-board meeting, about what exactly we want to do. And that's all I have.
Sounds good. Carol, do you have any business?
None other than what I mentioned in the introduction.
Thank you, Carol. Cricket, do you have any additional business?
No, I don't.
Well, with that, about a month ago, we had our general meeting, and as we were discussing, trying to figure out how to best leverage our momentum. One of the things we were thinking about is where can we apply the most pressure and where will it do the most good? And the conversation came up that with these data centers coming in, a big concern is water. Without water, there is no New Mexico. And I think, you know, we can talk about, what we do with the oil money and what we do with, how childcare is going to improve, everyone's life. But if you turn on the faucet, no water's coming out. There's nothing. We can't, and it seems like the Rio Grande has been going dry more often. I remember I've lived here 30 years. I think I remember it happening once in the 90s, and now it seems to happen every other year. And I last went to Elephant Butte a couple years ago, and I was like, wow, it's really low. As far as I know, it's even lower now, and I haven't been out there. Um, and so that's when it was suggested that we invite Norm Gaume to come and speak with us. Also to invite other caucuses and other interested Democratic people so that we can kind of maybe come up with three to five points that we're gonna all agree upon, pressuring our state legislators, pressuring our county commissioners, our city councilors, especially with the budgetary session coming up, which is only 30 days. So it's very fast, very limited as to what, is going to be considered. How can we have a united voice? And it seems like water is the main issue. And I would put that at the top of the list. There may be a couple other issues that we can discuss, but Mr. Norm, we would like to hear your position and your suggestions on what, we have you're on Adelante, we've got LGBTQIA caucus here, we've got other parties here. What is where are we? What's at stake and what can we do? And I turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Colton. Water is what I do and what the New Mexico Water Advocates do. May I share screens to show you a couple of things as a way to start?
Yes, please.
Says I can't.
Oh, I think we have to give you co-host permission. Would that be you, Dan, or Scotty?
Um, well, let's see. Hold, I think it's Dan.
So I'd be happy to go ahead without showing you a few things. So while we're figuring out if that's possible for me to share, let me just.
Yeah, go ahead and then we'll figure it out.
Okay. New Mexico's in a water crisis across the state. We overuse our precious water resources. Our water resources are declining with aridification. This is not drought. This is permanent. It may get better, but we're in a process called aridification. We're drying out. And we're doing our best to ignore that, I think, as a state. The governor and many legislators are pushing for produced water treatment and reuse, or brackish water development. They're pushing for data centers and high water use industries for economic development. And at the same time that we're pursuing these, I'm going to call them false solutions, because at most, they could be a 1 or 2% contribution to our needs at most, at best, and they're, I think, years away, decades away. We're not paying attention in managing or governing the scarce freshwater resources that we have. I presented to, as a member of a panel, presented to the Water and Natural Resources Committee in Taos on September 12th. I batted cleanup on a 5-person panel, and I think that the discussion would have been business as usual, except that I did my best to ring the alarm bell. Those few legislators in attendance got really animated over what we need to do. Senator Cervantes from Las Cruces, for example, said what the missing ingredient is courage. It's also attention. Most legislators don't know much about water. I think that water policy is kind of scary to most of them. And they would rather, I think, work on things that they're more comfortable with working on. And, that's my opinion. I've been around a long time. I'm a former director of the New Mexico Interstate Stream Commission, one of 2 agencies in New Mexico that deal with water. Senator Heinrich helped me personally when I was fighting the Gila diversion project, which we finally killed. It was infeasible to begin with, but the state agency, the Interstate Stream Commission, that I once was director of, did the opposite of what I would call scientific integrity. They made up their evidence, and I was able to prove that. And so the project started in 2005, and we didn't kill it until 2020. I don't remember. I think, who was it? Is from Deming. I guess just a little personal thing about me. I went to grade school in Deming and lived in the lower Rio Grande when I was raised there, educated in Las Cruces. I've been in Albuquerque since 1978 trying to solve water problems, and have had quite a bit of success, but the big water problem from the state is just simply not getting the attention from anybody that it deserves. The state engineer is not dealing with it, and let me test and see. No, I still can't share.
Yeah, sorry, I'm still looking at that right now, trying to figure out how to enable that.
Well, yeah, okay. So what I had to show you is a brand new little reel that talks about the Rio Grande Compact. I'm going to talk about the Rio Grande, and then I'm going to talk very briefly about groundwater. The Rio Grande is, I now call it, it's the Rio Poco Grande, because we pump the bottom out of the river and climate change is taking it away from us, and we're not paying much attention to that. Colton is right. I think that the dry river in Albuquerque has happened in the last 2 years, and I think actually that's the first time in many, many years. Elephant Butte Reservoir is almost empty. It's lower than I've ever seen it. I have some photographs I could show you that I took on August 27th. We're just in a mess. So the factual situation is that due to a dispute between Texas and New Mexico and the Bureau of Reclamation over the operation of Elephant Butte Reservoir, Texas sued New Mexico and the United States Supreme Court in 2013.
All right, you should be able to share now. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, well, let me just go to this little video. I don't think I'm sharing the right thing. Hang on. I can't tell what I am sharing.
Yeah, I see the Adelante website. It looks like you have your web browser open.
Yeah, I shared the wrong screen, so let me get back to
Okay.
Zoom. Oh, gracious. I'm normally better at this. I use Zoom a lot. I can't even find, oh, there it is. Stop share. There we go. Okay. Share.
You muted it, Norm.
So as I was, sorry that I didn't get the audio on for that, but it's just a little music behind it. The issue is that this 2013 lawsuit filed by the state of Texas in the United States Supreme Court, the United States has joined them against New Mexico, and a previous settlement between the three states was rejected by the feds, but an agreement has now been reached. A settlement has now been reached. The settlement papers have been filed. And if everything goes well, the Supreme Court of the United States will approve this settlement in 2026, and then New Mexico will have to implement it. What implementation of this settlement requires is that New Mexico buy at market prices the water rights, groundwater rights that now irrigate 9,240 acres of land in order to save 18,000 and some odd acre feet of water. And that's going to be a very tall task. 2 years from the date the settlement is approved, New Mexico has to submit a plan to come into compliance. Basically, the same thing is happening in the lower Rio Grande and in the middle Rio Grande. And of course, Elephant Butte Dam is the dividing line between the two. We're using much more water than we're entitled to in both of those areas. So the very bad news is that we are absolutely on track to violate the compact, the Rio Grande Compact, because the middle Rio Grande overuse is interfering with deliveries of water that belongs to water users below Elephant Butte Reservoir. And that's the new compact violation that unless we have a weather miracle or unless the legislature pulls out all the stops in this session, we're going to violate the compact in the middle Rio Grande, having another lawsuit potentially before the last one is even settled. Now, I don't need to tell anybody here that putting the middle Rio Grande's water future in the hands of this Supreme Court of the United States in a lawsuit filed by Texas, that is I can't imagine a worse thing for the legislature to be ignoring, but they are. And the state agencies that have purview, the state engineer, the Office of the State Engineer, and the Interstate Stream Commission have yet to say anything publicly about this. So I was a state official when we began work to get overuse under control in the lower Rio Grande. This was 1997, and the federal government had just sued everybody claiming to get quiet title, to claim ownership of all of the groundwater and surface water rights in the lower Rio Grande. The negotiations were able to succeed in getting that lawsuit held in abeyance. It's subsequently been dismissed, but New Mexico put out a metering order and started a water rights adjudication. Now, in the middle Rio Grande, neither of those things has been started. And at the Water and Natural Resources Committee meeting in Taos, Senator Cervantes mocked the state engineer and the Interstate Stream Commission director for planning to put out a metering order in the middle Rio Grande and planning to begin an adjudication. Now, actually, both of those announcements that were made to the legislature by state officials are appropriate things to do. But Senator Cervantes is right. I mean, we've just been neglecting water in this state for forever. Basically, still, I won't go more into detail on that. So, with respect to groundwater, I presume that many of you know, many of you don't know, that 2 years ago, Portales didn't have enough water to fill its water mains and its taps. Clovis had access to the same data from the New Mexico Bureau of Geology and Mineral Resources, water data that Portales had, but Clovis took action. And through a tremendous effort, they now have saved enough water in the Ogallala Aquifer, it's practically dry, that they have 10 years of water supply left, 10 years. And groundwater wells are going dry all over the state. Basically, the situation is that, well, let me just tell you one other little story. In 1930, the legislature decided it was time to regulate water use from the Roswell Artesian Basin aquifer. And the reason was that when that aquifer was tapped, it was artesian. You know, you'd get a gusher out of the ground when you drilled a water well. So many water wells were drilled and left open and flowing that artesian pressure dropped precipitously in the aquifer and the wells quit flowing. And so the legislature decided it was time to do something about that. And now that aquifer is literally the only managed groundwater aquifer in the state of New Mexico, you know, where it's managed for sustainability. That doesn't apply anywhere else. And the situation is, we've been pumping massive amounts of groundwater in this state, you know, since the 1920s, 100 years, and we don't know how much water is left in the ground, and we don't know what the rate of depletion is, either one. And the Bureau of Geology, which has great programs to figure all of that out, you know, they let their needs be known to the legislature, but they don't get the funding. Last year, for example, the governor requested $29 million for them. When the budget came out of House Appropriations and Finance Committee, it was down to 19. No discussion about why, no idea where the money went. And when the budget bill came out of Senate Finance, it was down to $7.5 million. Well, that's a good start, but the legislators in the interim committees before that were asking the Bureau of Mines to do it more quickly. They say it would take 12 years. They needed 175 million, to survey our state's aquifers and determine scientifically how much water's left and how fast it's going away. But they got a pittance of what's needed, and the legislature will not give them multi-year appropriations. They get 1-year appropriations, and there's no way that you can efficiently run a huge program if you have to get budget a year at a time. We need multi-year appropriations. So that's my overview, and I'll stop there. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. It's worse than I thought. So
And I have a list of bills that
Okay.
we need to find sponsors for. They are appropriation bills with language.
Now,
And it
and
needs to be on the governor's call.
that's was going to be one of my questions. What specific bills can we start pushing our state legislators to sponsor? And Dan, I see you have your hand up.
My question is, how do we conserve water? How does that work? Who's using all the water and how do we reduce the usage? Who's using what where? So that's the stuff I don't quite understand. I'm not clear on and curious how we resolve that.
Well, that's a great question. So before I show legislation, let me find you again. I've lost you on my screen. 80% of the water in this state is withdrawn for agriculture. That's kind of the way of life. This was a rural state. Agriculture has all the senior water rights. Total public water supply in New Mexico accounts for about 10% of withdrawals. Industry accounts for about 5%. Yeah, those are rough numbers, but they're published by the state engineer. Those, they're ballpark. And I don't remember how the other 5% breaks down, but most of it's in ag. So let me tell you another short story. The Bureau of Geology and Mineral Resources prepared an excellent report, and the title is something like the effects of climate change on water resources over the next 50 years. And what they projected is we were going to lose 25% of our supply within 50 years. And that sounds bad. But this year, the Rio Grande supply is down 60%. The San Juan Chama project that brings imported water into the Rio Grande from 3 headwater streams of the San Juan River has a yield this year of 31%. The firm yield of that project is a lot of water, about the same amount that Albuquerque uses in a year, 96,400 acre feet. When I was water resources manager for the city of Albuquerque in the 1990s, the firm yield for the San Juan Chama project, that's what they called it. They called it the firm yield, firm. And this year we have 31%. So we face tremendous shortages, and if and you're not going to get savings through conservation per se, there's going to be a lot of ag that's going to have to go fallow. And that's a lot of families and a lot of livelihoods. But I grew up with a guy one of my best friends and 2 of my best friends in Deming when I was going to grade school there were sons of farmers. And at that time, they grew high value crops like chili. Now They raise alfalfa because they can't get the labor to process the chili. And so in order to make a living, they pump tremendous amounts of groundwater to support one family. One family. That's the problem. And we're not anywhere close to figuring out what the solutions are. In 2023, after I served as a member of the State Engineers Water Policy and Infrastructure Task Force, I drafted, with help from my colleagues at the New Mexico Water Advocates, a bill, and it passed unanimously the first year it was introduced. It was a complex bill, and the bill passed the Water Security Planning Act, the 2023 Water Security Planning Act. Not a single no vote in any committee or either chamber, including on a substantive House floor amendment. The state is just dragging their feet on implementing it, and they have proposed rules. The rules are just awful. And so what I've been spending most of my time recently is getting ready to testify in the hearing that's mid-month on that. That was a long answer to a question about what the water goes and what we're going to have to do about it. But what we have to do is get serious and start planning. We have to get water data together. And I can show you the list of legislation. It's just a one-page description of multiple bills whenever you're interested.
Would love to post that list on the website, so that we can, as we reach out to our state legislators, we say, hey, go to the Adelante website, this bill, this bill, this bill.
I need to find sponsors for these bills now, and I think I can. Let me find that list and just put it up real briefly.
One question.
Yeah.
I've always, had is that I don't understand why Texas relies upon a landlocked high desert state for water when they border an ocean. They're the second largest state economy in the nation, and they're a huge energy generation state. Couldn't they just not take from us? Is that a feasible solution?
That's a great question. And here's the situation. The Rio Grande and El Paso ran dry in the late 1800s. And it was because Colorado was using all of the water. They had canals by the, way back that could literally divert the entire flow of the Rio Grande. And they did their best to use it up. So the river went dry in El Paso. And there was a lot of controversy. In 1929, the United States declared a moratorium on further water development in the Rio Grande Basin. And that moratorium stayed into effect until the Rio Grande Compact, which is an agreement between Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas, signed by the governors of the states after the compact was approved by the legislatures, signed by the president after it was approved by Congress. And it is federal and state law in all three states. It's also federal law. And compacts, water compacts, interstate stream compacts between states are enforceable in the first instance by the United States Supreme Court. So basically we have an agreement between three states and the feds to divide the waters of the Rio Grande. 57% of the water that's delivered to Elephant Butte Reservoir through the Middle Valley is used by New Mexico farmers in EBID, or it should be. They own the water rights to 57% of that, and this pending settlement that I talked to you about honors that. The situation is that New Mexico in the Middle Rio Grande has never considered administration or anything other than dredging channels and channelizing the river. You know, they've never constrained water use. And now everybody is taking what they need or what they want with no constraint, and the sum of all those individual uses is greater than the river can bear. And so we now, as of as of September 29th, the Middle Rio Grande is behind 175,000 acre feet in its deliveries to Elephant Butte Reservoir. And if that debt goes above 200,000 acre feet, we violate the compact and trigger a new lawsuit. So that's my short answer. They are entitled to their share of the water that flows under the bridge to Los Alamos. That water is supposed to be divided between users above and users below Elephant Butte Reservoir, but New Mexico has allowed overuse both above and below Elephant Butte Dam that far exceeds its share.
So let's say we violate that contract, we pay Texas money. I would rather pay the money and keep the water. Is that a possible solution?
Well, that was the solution. Let me tell you what happened in the Pecos River. And I don't know, I mean, I can't, well, what happened in the Pecos River is Texas sued in the Pecos River, and the Supreme Court decree said New Mexico will never again owe Pecos River water to Texas, never again. To do so would be to violate the decree, and they required we pay $14 million in damages. You know, that was a pretty good deal, but we had to get our act in order, and it was super hard for that to happen. But it's been done, and so that issue's settled. What I fear could happen in the Middle Rio Grande if we violate the compact, if our debt to Elephant Butte Reservoir goes above 200,000 acre feet, and it goes back to the United States Supreme Court, they're tired of seeing us there, right? And this is the United States Supreme Court. They have unfettered discretion, and their decisions are unappealable. And they could well say, because I've heard Senator Cervantes from Las Cruces advocate for this, and he would be on the other side of this lawsuit. You know, he's down there below Elephant Butte. He would likely advocate for New Mexico to put the Middle Rio Grande in a ditch, like it is south of Elephant Butte Dam. He complains constantly about ditches in the Middle Rio Grande flowing full all the time. So we might have a penalty, but we might be subject to the Supreme Court's discretion, where they would order things that we would hate to see, really hate to see, because we haven't taken care of our own business. We haven't met our own agreements. We're not even trying.
Scotty, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, Norm, last general meeting, we had Kathy McCord, who's with the Water Watchers in Valencia County, and she was saying how, I don't know if it's Nestle that's sucking up water for bottled water, and the Los Lunas City Council or County Commission, I can't remember which, approved them taking a bunch of water, and then now they want more water. That to me, if we in the Middle Rio Grande are violating the compact, do we have any leverage to say to this corporation, you can't have it?
The short answer is yes. And the short answer, another part of the short answer is there will be hearing on that, and undoubtedly that application will fail for multiple reasons. I personally protested it on the grounds of public welfare.
So
It's not Nestle, it's Niagara.
Niagara, thank you very much.
And if you will permit me just another quick share, let me make sure I have the window open.
sure.
This is our website. And here's an article about Blackstone. This is an article that summarizes the hearing in Taos with pictures of Elephant Butte Reservoir. You see that van in this photo? This is the wet side of Elephant Butte Dam where they're camping. The reservoir is 3% full, 4%, 3%. So let me go back from there. And really what I wanted to do is just show you our homepage. And here's an article on Niagara. So there's lots of information on this website. Thank you.
Well, that's a very sobering presentation. And just to kind of, wrap up so we can move on to our next guest. I look at a map of the US and I just will sometimes daydream. I wonder if we could build some kind of channel from like the headwaters of the Missouri River and the other water rivers that, feed into the Mississippi to like help, you know, backfill the Rio Grande. And then when they're having times of flooding, maybe we divert that into that pipeline. And is that would be a massive, massive, massive interstate public works project. Is that something feasible, or is conservation the only real way out of this?
I describe ideas like that, and I don't mean to be criticizing your concept there, but I describe them as bright and shiny objects that distract us from the work that we have to do. Solutions like that, or treating and reusing, fracking wastewater, produced water, they're just not feasible. They're not going to happen. We are stuck with the water we have, and we are using it like there's no tomorrow. The Water Security Planning Act, by the way, says that the plans that regions across the state are supposed to produce have to advance the public welfare, and they have to consider intergenerational equity. What that language is they have to consider the needs of future generations of New Mexicans. But right now it's out of sight, out of mind.
Thank you, Norm, for that. I look forward to seeing those bills. If there are bills that don't have sponsors, we'll make a note of it so that on the website, so that we know as we reach out to our legislators, which ones to focus on. Because I definitely think this is something that all the caucuses can agree on, as being like a primary issue. And on even going to county and city level issues to, if a representative city government is going to the legislature, like, hey, by the way, that bill about water, the more they hear about it, the more they show up about it, the better chances it has. Well, with that, and you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, Norm. But I'm gonna at this point turn it over to Cynthia Arellano, the political director for Senator Martin Heinrich. Welcome to the Adelante Caucus.
Thank you. I just want to bug Norm maybe for your contact information in the chat. I know I can't can't do anything on the campaign side, but I would love to connect you, and I'm sure you already have with the official side, just for more information or anything the senator can do to help, would be appreciated. Thank you for putting that in the chat. Sorry, I'm gonna steal it before it moves on. Okay, I promise I will be quick. My name is Cynthia Arellano, and I've been working with the senator since February. Previously, I was with Congresswoman Ledra Fernandez, and before that, I had a whole different life. I was in the legal field. I worked at the district attorney's office. I was one of their translators in the how do I say this gently? Because people always stare at me like, what is that? It was a domestic violence and sexual assault floor. Um, I was one of only certified translators, and with an immigration background before that, it was very helpful to be on that floor, although it was brutal. Sometimes when people tell me that politics is tough, I tell them I've seen tougher, I've read tougher, I've translated tougher, and I've seen terrible. So not to compare, but being in politics has really changed my life. Although right now we're in a different political climate than we were when I started. It has changed my life. I'm able to spend more time with my kid, if you believe it or not. Um, I'm taking classes and it's been amazing. I really just want to point out that I'm here just as a resource on the campaign side. I'm always able to join general meetings, any caucus, events, activities that I can help table at. Right now, the senator is in the off cycle, so we are focusing on right now doing outreach with the caucus and candidates. We're really encouraging candidates to either run, help support either behind the scenes financially. The senator has been fundraising for candidates on the municipal side and statewide. So that is our focus right now, and it'll definitely be our focus next year. Like when we started our call, there's a lot of chaos in DC, but we are really trying to bring the focus back to New Mexico and encourage folks to run. We like Laura, she's running in the really red district. We have another candidate that I'm helping. Her name is Dina Ortega, and she is in Roosevelt County, which is Portales, and that county party has received death threats. There's been stalking. So my only ask is, however you're getting involved, please continue to do so. But I would also say, if you're able to follow all county parties on social media, connect with them. I know sometimes I live in Rio Rancho, it's red, but you can't feel it. Not like on the eastern portion of New Mexico, not like in Farmington. I say that when I was on Teresa's team, I was in CD3 La La Land because down south can get very, very brutal for candidates. So now I am doing everything I can if they have mustered up the courage to run for us to support them, even if I'm creating flyers, checking in on social media, checking in through a text right now. That is all I ask because Bernalillo County, Doña Ana and especially Santa Fe, they don't feel what you all feel if you don't live in Santa Fe. Santa Fe is a whole different climate, and around the state, as much as we need water down south, they need our support in every way possible. So if it's through social media, sharing flyers, helping them with comms, some folks don't have all the support from DPNM and resources that we have, they do not have, and they're literally doing it on their own. So I would ask to please, if you have time, energy, and you want to focus locally, please reach out to those candidates because they are really making the difference in their communities, in very, very, very red districts like Laura, who's been canvassing, and I mean, they're not safe. It's not like canvassing in Santa Fe. I've canvassed in Santa Fe, and I've also canvassed in Clovis and Portales, and in Hobbs, and it is not the same. You feel it, you see it, and you just know it at a county fair. It's not like going to the state fair and tabling. You really feel the difference. And I just ask for you to support in any way, even in just checking on folks to see how they're doing, is all I ask. So in a huge bundle, that is me. I will put my contact information. If you all should need anything, please let me know. You can text, call, and if you know someone who's running in one of those tough districts, please let me know. And if we can support in any way, we will.
Thank you. It it it's a lot, like as a former candidate myself, it's a lot to run and to, I've asked people and they're like, nah, it's asking a lot. And so when someone does step forward, they need all the help they can get. And I speak from like personal experience. It's just it becomes more than a second job, it is all encompassing. So and that's part of the Adelante mission, is to help raise awareness and support progressive candidates statewide. I know most of us live in Albuquerque, but this is a branch of the Democratic Party of New Mexico, and we where we can help, we will do what we can. Um, and I just want to also express, I I appreciate Senator Heinrich reaching out. He just got reelected. He could just kind of disappear until 2029, and but I appreciate that, he is, making efforts to do that, even though he's, got other things to focus on. And a quick question I have, you know, I've kind of in my mind written off the federal government for now. And like I've said, it focus on state and local. You know, we I have every confidence that Senator Heinrich, Senator Lujan will do what they can. My representative Stansbury will do what she can. Um, Gabe and Teresa will do what they can. So I'm like, kind of, that's good for now. Is that an appropriate attitude, or do you think there is more that we can do? You can say if I'm wrong. That's okay.
No, I feel the same way, and I think they have prepared for it. I know on the official side. So technically, I'm the only one on the campaign side. And when I need to reach out to our chief of staff, um, she is very busy. So they are working, I can say around the clock, even if I try to catch her after hours, even if it's 2 hours ahead. She is normally either on a Zoom or doing something on the ground. Um, so I feel the same way. I think I would say just please pay attention to social media. And I know that's so new school, but if they need us, they will let you know through social media. If it's either through making calls, Melanie's great at making those announcements. She's like, call the senator and let him know. Um, if there is concerns that you have, please always reach out to the state offices. I know I mean, we have a full team on the official side. So if there is still something that's bugging you, bothering you, please email, call them. If you're not getting through to them, please just call me and then I will bump an email and we'll get that squared away. But really, right now, I think focusing on the municipal races around the state. And next year, there is so many seats up for state reps, state senators that they're really, I mean, this is only the beginning. Next year is going to be a full on election cycle with a lot of open seats that the Republicans are definitely going to put up somebody for those seats to run against the Democrats. Um, and we'll need to support them in whatever way possible.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Arellano at the moment? If not, move on to Mr. Marty Jacobson, Chair of the LGBTQIA Caucus. I appreciate you joining us this evening. The ongoing, not just this meeting, but the ongoing effort, doesn't even have to be on a meeting, is to try to find where all these caucuses in a Venn diagram, where do we overlap the most and focus. We have our main issue as a caucus, but then there's, where can we overlap the most? I feel like water is definitely one of those issues. Are there issues that you feel that you definitely overlap with Adelante and maybe some of the other caucuses?
I think the biggest one right now has to do with healthcare, and especially gender affirming care, and being able to make your own healthcare choices. And that has to do with abortion care, it has to do with gender affirming care, and all of that. It just comes down to people being allowed to choose how their health care is managed. Decisions are done between them and their doctors. So I think that that's probably our biggest point of overlap. But in general, some of the things that we're doing that are similar to you is we're trying to reach out to other areas. We've been in Las Cruces and Taos for their pride parades. Some of our best attended meetings have been in rural areas. And so we exist all over the state. And we are, and I understand the fear of going into some of those red areas, and many of our members experience that fear on a daily basis. So, reaching out and supporting the, Democrats across the state, especially the ones in the rural areas, is very important right now.
Thank you. One thing that I've noticed in my um, political activities is that state legislators seem to respond better when you can offer them a draft bill. Like, here's what I want you to make into a law. And it helps them focus rather than generalized ideas. Like, they're like, yeah, I love that idea. I got a dozen things I'm working on and 5 dozen things I'm partnering with other legislators on. And I think putting the words on paper in front of them, are there any bills LGBTQIA caucus has supported in the past, maybe looking for supporting in this 30-day session, or even stuff on the city and county level?
Mm-hmm. So one of we are lucky in New Mexico in that there are a lot of supports currently. And there is equality. There is no attempt to, well, I shouldn't say this. There is no bill on the books that is currently attempting to block access to gender affirming care or to block access to marriage equality. And that's kind of where we're at now, is when those bills are coming up, and they do come up almost every session from Republican legislators. We just make sure that we're paying attention to those and watching those, and they are getting shot down every time. And so that's kind of where we've been. Now, I've only been chair since January, so I can't really speak to the past exactly what pieces have been looked at there. But right now, focusing in on making sure that we maintain our status as an affirming and accepting state.
Certainly. Are there any questions for Mr. Jacobson? Scotty, you look like you're.
Yeah,
There you
I'm
go.
trying to get unmuted. Marty, would the health compact have any effect on the caucus, on your caucus?
I'm not familiar with the health compact.
The health compact is where we're allowing, if we make an agreement that certain doctors in other states, either Texas or Colorado or Arizona or Kansas or what have you, can do telehealth in New Mexico, even though they don't have a license in New Mexico.
Mhm.
We're trying to figure out a way to get more medical professionals in the state. But I think it's Cervantes who's been putting up the roadblock saying, you know, you're infringing on our economy. Well, we have a huge shortage of medical providers.
Yeah.
And
And
we
that
do
is
have a
something.
nursing compact that we've had for quite a while, and it does help.
Mhm. Yeah, and I know medical professionals have taken advantage of that compact, allowing them to practice with certifications from other states. For the telehealth, especially if it's going to be a doctor who may be in a red state, we would just want to make sure that that they would agree to New Mexico standards around gender affirming care and that kind of thing.
Ms. Arellano, I see you have your hand up. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, not a question, but more of a suggestion. The Veterans Caucus has been putting up bills, getting sponsors, and pardon my language, but kicking ass at
Mhm.
getting those bills passed. They do a training, they do it more than once a year. I know they'll do it in December. They'll do it right before session starts, and they might do little tidbits during session. But that is something that maybe reaching out to the Veterans Caucus and joining their training. The gals who do their training are amazing. They're always there. They get their bills passed, and they're awesome. So that's just one suggestion going back to the session is that training, and they offer it to all the caucuses, even to public, civilians, for everyone. So just a suggestion.
I wonder if that comes from military training, their ability to
Oh, they're
get that.
like on
Yeah.
it. Like we're starting on time, and everyone leaves with something new that they learned, and it's great. I mean, it's worked. It's worked for them the last few
That,
sessions.
that's a really, I was not aware that they offered those trainings. And this, thank you for sharing that, because that's one of those things, you know, as as a caucus, we kind of do our own thing, we get caught in our own bubble, but then we're like, hey, what else, where can we work together? And then if you've got, most of the, you know, Democratic Party pushing in unison on certain issues, then heck, I think, we would all be unstoppable.
And
You
it's
Um,
free.
should invite them to the next general meeting
that's a great idea.
and invite other caucuses too.
Uh,
And maybe
are there
by then
any,
we'll have, Norm will have some ideas for some bills. You said you have bills already written, Norm?
I have a paragraph that is essentially the content. No, I have a paragraph on what 5 different appropriation bills need to do. It's no more than the bills are going to be no more than a couple of paragraphs, and so I have some sponsors in mind. I haven't yet converted the ideas to bill language, but that's on my plate.
Okay.
I'm just writing down the info for the Veterans Caucus real quick.
All right, marginally related question. Would people be supportive of me also posting the chat from the general meeting? Because we're already posting the video. Chat's not a big deal to add. And since there is a lot of useful information in the chat, like email addresses and stuff.
That's a great idea.
All right, I'll do that.
Because yeah, I quickly write it down because I anticipate it disappearing once the meeting's
Yeah, because
over.
yeah, all that stuff it's supposed to get saved, and in the past it has been saved with the video, so it's not a big deal. So I'll put it up.
Right.
I need to say
Alrighty.
one thing.
Yeah.
The New Mexico Water Advocates is a 501c3. We're not allowed to engage in electoral politics, but we certainly advocate for policy.
And we can certainly, if we see a good idea, language that we feel should be included in certain bills, we can certainly take on that political mantle. I wouldn't think, water would be a politicized issue, but unfortunately it is. It should just be a given. Um,
Well, the Water Security
well,
Planning Act passed unanimously, and that's what we want. We want water, I think, to be a nonpartisan issue. The problem is the values around water are very partisan.
and go back generations, asking people who have been farming since their family came to New Mexico to then consider not, that cuts deep, and but it may be, necessary to preserve that for the future, is if, scaling back. A question that did come to mind earlier, I just remembered it now. Do you think maybe a possible avenue would be to supplement some of these agricultural communities where if they are dependent upon growing a certain crop, could the state, in theory, let's say, pay them a certain percentage of like, okay, we want you to produce 50% of that. What's your annual revenue on that? We're going to pay that because we need to just not, and instead of then saving the water, so then we don't have to pay in a violated lawsuit. Is that a strategy?
It is the strategy in the lower Rio Grande. It was the strategy in the Pecos River. I'm not sure New Mexico has enough money to do this in the middle Rio Grande or statewide, but yes, that's the way New Mexico prefers to do it. By the way,
Alrighty, well,
one other
go
thing
ahead.
that's really important, but it's kind of a nuance. Our Constitution says we administer water by priority, but priority administration leaves out schools and hospitals and communities, so it doesn't work. But we don't have anything as a substitute for it. In other words, water should be administered under law, that if you have senior rights and there isn't enough, you get everything and all the junior users get nothing. That's the law.
We have about 10 minutes left. Are there any questions for either of our guests that may have come to mind while we were discussing? If not, Norm, are there any final thoughts you might want to share with the remaining time?
Well, I just paid the dues to join the Adelante Progressive Caucus. I would ask that all of you subscribe to our newsletter. We don't send out much email, but you'll get maybe 1 or 2 emails a month from us, but they'll keep you appraised of what's going on. And thank you for whoever it was, Cynthia, putting that in the chat previously. And thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you for coming and just telling us the truth about what we face. Because you know, I just I just don't know what we would do. I mean, I don't think there are enough trucks in the country to ship water from somewhere else. You know, that would be, if it came to something like that, that would be a, you know, utter catastrophe. Or some kind of, I couldn't even imagine like what we would do. Like if it gets to, as it seems like we're going.
Well, can we do desalination on brackish and briny groundwater? Doesn't El Paso do a little bit of that?
El Paso does a fine job of that. You know, it was a huge project. They built it with a lot of federal money and
Mm-hmm.
support. The project itself is located on Fort Bliss.
Huh.
We could do something like that, but it's still a niche solution. It only works
Okay.
in a few places where you have the right hydrogeology.
Hmm.
I had another pithy thing to say, and that is basically if we continue without doing anything, New Mexico doesn't really have a future. We use about 3 million acre feet a year, and we're going to lose a third or half of our supply due to climate change. We have 400,000 acres of groundwater only irrigation, and almost all of that is for hay. If we were to find a way to prioritize uses, and I don't know how in the world we could do that, there's enough water, you know, for New Mexico to survive and thrive. But the clock is running, and as I said, we're using water like there's no tomorrow.
Um, with Dan's question, it did remind me there has been expressed that there is this brackish saltwater aquifer much deeper underground, and there have been ideas to pump that, desalinate that. But how renewable is that deep resource? If we became reliant on that, wouldn't that just go dry after 50 years?
Well, until we do the hydrogeologic homework, you know, which would include, it's the work that the Bureau of Geology needs funding to do. They already have proposed what needs to be done. They need the money. Because deep brackish groundwater that could be extracted for treatment is pretty much a pipe dream right now. You know, people think there's deep brackish groundwater, but how much is there? What I do know is that Sandoval County spent a ton of money not that long ago to research a brackish water aquifer that they wanted to use to build a new community the size of Rio Rancho, kind of along the Rio Parco boundary. And the water was full of radiation, it was full of arsenic, it was under pressure, it was hot, it was incredibly corrosive. And after they spent millions on it, they closed it out. And what the situation right now is they drilled a couple of wells into that. In another 100 years, those well casings are going to be corrosive, and all of that pressurized, hot, nasty water is going to be coming back up. You know, so we're not doing our homework. That's my main point. We're not doing our homework, and we have to do our homework before we can manage and govern our resources. And although we might pretend that we have a management system. It's really nothing more than permits to pump. And once you get a permit, you're good as gold. You can keep on pumping until there's no water left.
Francis, I see have your hand up.
Yeah, the reason that I wanted to talk a little bit too is that I know that you guys are always concerned about all the water up there, but what you guys don't understand either is that you take water from us as well. We have to help Albuquerque, and we're way down the hick over here. I knew Norm a little bit when he was helping us with when we were dealing with all this stuff with the Gila over here. But some other things that we're dealing with here is that we have a huge copper company that's from Africa, South Africa, and they're the ones that bought the copper mine from here, Utah, Arizona, California, all over, everywhere Kennecott was at, with exception of Utah, which Utah was really smart to keep Kennecott because Kennecott was a lot better at understanding the use of water and how to make it better for the community, on and on. So the company that's here, they give back to the community, but we're running out of well water, like for example in Hurley. And I know Hurley's a small town, but now the water that the copper mine took from us, now they're having to give the fresh water back to Hurley because Hurley can't find a well because, well, the copper mine has gotten all the well water. And that's happening to us over here too in different parts of our area where the communities that live close to the mine. If any of you have ever seen Salt to the Earth, if you haven't, you need to watch it. A lot of what Norm is talking about, it does come out in the movie. And so you really can see what it's like for us that live in these rural areas, not coming from the city writing about it, but actually living in it and having to deal with that. And knowing and being on the city council now, it's a real reality. And I can't even get our mayor to understand this, that I might have to have Norm come and talk to them because they just look at me and they just, yeah, you're just some chick that your dad was a legacy with a mine, whatever. They don't understand that we learned water from our parents. Our parents weren't stupid, and that just because they didn't have BA and MA after their names did not make them stupid. And the copper mines were overseen by the unions, and that's where the unions really helped us to keep a lot of them not being able to come in and just do whatever they wanted through through the legislators, because the unions also had a big say back then. But once they started doing away with the unions and the companies started really, really taking over, especially during the Reagan administration, that's where a lot of these big copper mines and the big unions started decertifying, and these companies like PD came in over here and others. There's a whole history. You need to read the book, The Molly Maguires. There's a whole thing that ties into all of New Mexico through the mining, through all the stuff that Norm's talking about, how we just use agriculture with the water. And some of the ag people really had paid attention, like over here where I live. A lot of people got rid of once their parents couldn't do it anymore because of their age and their lack of ability or help. They went ahead and they gave up their water rights, and they cut out they took out all the orchards. They cut all the orchards out. The apple orchards, fruit orchards, any type of corn stuff. There's a few that are left. One big one that bought one of my dad's compas property, and some of the others. He has a huge alfalfa, but he's also being really careful how he's giving back and sustaining his community and all that kind of stuff. So there's a few here that were left from my dad's generation that taught their kids, and they're being really careful with it. But the rest of them, as Norm was saying, they really don't give a damn. And it's people that are coming in from California, and I'm not saying from the city, these are actually people who have you know, cattle and agriculture. And I know they're moving their cattle back and forth. We know they are, but they lie about it. And the legislature is so excited because of the kind of money they bring in and that kind of stuff. So I know where Norm's coming from on this because we had to deal with it over here. We deal with it almost every day. And it's been really hard being on the city council, not able to get through these people's thick head that have lived here all their life. I mean, I left for 21 years, but these guys still don't get it. And I know we've had Senator Heinrich talk to them. We've had Gabe talk to them. We've had other people from other states that are U.S. senators and U.S. reps talk to them. And they just don't want to hear it because everybody thinks that this water's going to last forever. But I can already see the mine with the issues we're having over here. They landlocked us in Bayard. Thankfully, one of the big Foy families. A lot of you remember Mr. Foy. He was one of our state house reps for years and years. Well, he's was born and raised in Santa Rita and Bayard area, and luckily, all his family thought of giving selling all their land to us at a pretty decent cost. So we can have at least those water rights from there. And so Bayard now is not landlocked anymore. And now we have a little bit more freedom. But I'm going to have to, at the next few meetings before my term is over, to explain to them that they can't just go crazy with the water and give it to whomever and whatever. There's a whole lot of stuff that needs to be planned, especially in the rural areas. But I'll just make it that real quick point. But yeah, that's what I'm trying to say is as you come into the more rural areas, you'll see that we don't have the state party behind us. Thankfully, we do have Senator Heinrich, him and before our other Senator Udall retired, they both would come down together and really help us a lot. But now it's just Senator Heinrich because Lujan won't come down here if his whole life depended on it. Nobody even knows who he is, not like the way we knew his dad. And so we have that kind of stuff. But I think that it's something that you might want to look at when the legislative session starts at the beginning. We have all the counties that come. If you go to Grand County Day, that's one of the bigger ones where they all come out, and it would probably be really good to catch them. That's when you can catch and really talk to a lot of these rural folks. And those are the ones that we have to talk to. Even the Democrats are hard-headed. It's not just the Republicans. Like Norm said, it's not a political thing. They don't care who they are. They just don't respect that. They think water's going to last forever.
Certainly.
But anyway, that's my quick take on where we're at. Extraction agency organizations, that's what's killing us in the rural Southwest.
Certainly. Well, it is 8:04. Thank you all to our guests. We'll look forward to having that draft legislation to put on our website. And certainly if any other bills or draft bills come across, we would love to put it on our website so we can help direct legislators on where to go. So thank you all. Have a good night. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks for having a good meeting.